Have you ever watched a 19-year-old do something and thought, that's not possible? Not jealous, confused. Like your brain refused to accept what your eyes just showed it. That's what happened to millions of people watching Lamine Yamal at the 2026 World Cup. He's 19, not competing against the best footballers on the planet, outplaying them consistently in the biggest moments, on the biggest stage that exists. And the strangest part isn't how good he is. The strangest part is why. Why a 19-year-old brain can do things a 30-year-old brain, no matter how experienced, simply cannot anymore. Because the human brain doesn't peak all at once. Different skills peak at different ages. And the skills that make Yamal look impossible are the exact ones that peak earliest and fade first. He's not lucky. He's not a fluke. He is, biologically, standing in a window that most players never even know exists. And most players over 28 have already watched it close without realizing it. Let's go inside his brain. Receives the ball. 3 defenders converge. Before any of them commit, he's already gone. Pass threaded through a gap that didn't exist half a second ago. That's not instinct. That's fluid intelligence. Psychologist Raymond Cattell first identified it in the 1940s. Your brain's raw processing speed. Pattern detection in real time. Solving a problem you've never seen before, with no past experience to lean on. It peaks between 18 and 25. Then it starts a slow decline, one that never reverses. Watch the defender closest to him. 31 years old. He's already shifting his weight, reading the shape of the play, the way he's read it 1,000 times before. He's not wrong. He's just late. Because he's leaning on crystallized intelligence, years of stored patterns, memory doing the work instead of raw calculation. It's why veterans look calm. They've seen this before. The problem is, Yamal hasn't given them before. He's giving them now. Memory retrieval is slower than real-time calculation. And at World Cup speed, half a second is the whole game. Stanford neuroscientist David Eagleman spent years studying how the brain processes time. What he found, young brains don't just think faster, they experience time differently. The same half second holds more usable information in a 19-year-old brain than in a 30-year-old one. Yamal isn't seeing the game faster, he's processing it faster. Watch it again. The defender commits to the pattern he expects. The ball is already gone. Now here's where it gets stranger. Myelin, a fatty sheath wrapped around your neural pathways, like insulation on a wire. More myelin, faster signal. Faster signal, faster body. Myelination of the pathways that control motor skill, spatial awareness, pattern recognition. It peaks between 17 and 22. After 25, it starts to degrade. Slowly, quietly. But it starts. Freeze the frame right here. Yamal, ball at his foot, defender a half step away. Now watch it at full speed. The ball looks stitched to his foot. It's not just technique. That's a fully myelinated pathway firing brain to muscle at maximum speed. The defender marking him is 31, a decade more experience. But the raw signal telling his legs to change direction is traveling a slightly slower road. One movement, it's nothing. 90 minutes, thousands of movements. It adds up to a different game entirely. But here's the part almost nobody accounts for. The skills fading in older players aren't football skills. They're biological ones. And in their place, older players build something Yamal doesn't have yet and can't fake. University of Virginia researcher Timothy Salthouse found that while raw processing speed drops after 25, something else keeps climbing well into the late 30s. Strategic decision-making, emotional control under pressure, the ability to hold back an impulse. That's why Yamal freezes defenders with decisions nobody saw coming. But watch what happens 2 minutes later. A ball he should have held. A run he should have finished with a pass, not a shot. The kind of choice a 28-year-old version of him will never make again. For a second, the genius looks like recklessness. That's not a flaw in the story. It's the other half of it. The prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that weighs consequences, that says wait, doesn't fully finish developing until around 25. So right now, Yamal is two things at once. A brain at the absolute peak of its power, and a brain still being built. Peak speed. Unfinished judgment. At 19, the speed is winning, but it isn't winning for free. One more piece. And it changes everything. Neuroplasticity. Your brain's ability to rewire itself around new experience. It doesn't stay constant across a life. It peaks in adolescence and early adulthood, then gets harder and harder to access, which means every touch Yamal takes right now, every pressure moment at this World Cup, isn't just experience, it's construction. Michael Merzenich, considered the father of modern neuroplasticity research, found that young brains don't just learn faster, they lock in what they learn more permanently. Deeper grooves, more automatic, built to last. Yamal isn't just playing a World Cup at 19. He's building a different brain than the one he had 6 months ago, and building it faster than it will ever be possible for him to build again. By 25, the raw speed will start to fade, gently. But underneath it, he'll have laid something rarer than talent, a foundation of experience, wired in during the one window in a human life when wiring happens fastest. So what are we actually watching? Not just a talented teenager. A brain caught at the exact moment every advantage it will ever have is firing at once. Processing speed, myelination, plasticity, fluid intelligence, all peaking together on the biggest stage in the sport. That window doesn't stay open long. Most players with the hardware never get the stage. Most players who get the stage no longer have the hardware. Yamal has both. Right now. So next time you watch him do something your brain refuses to accept, trust the confusion. You're not watching a footballer. You're watching a narrow biological window, open for a moment, on live television. And somewhere in your own brain, in pathways that have been quiet since you were his age, there's a faint memory of what that felt like. Moving fast. Thinking faster. The world just slightly slower than you were. You had it too. Once. So did every 30-year-old on that pitch. The difference is Yamal is still using his.